my MO, my purpose in life is to help people become better, but also exude joy every day, because now from here forward, every day is a free day for me.
Hey guys, welcome to episode number 201 of the Game On Girlfriend podcast. I'm really happy you stopped by today because if you are alive today, chances are you're dealing with adversity. And that adversity you can almost be embarrassed about, right? Like you don't want anyone to know you're really, really mad that you keep stubbing your toe on this one stool in your kitchen, right? And that can feel like an adversity. It could be an argument you're having inside your family or a struggle you're having personally about your own emotions, to knowing you need to get divorced, to deciding whether or not you want to close down your business, to having a health challenge. And that is where today's guest, Robin Osborn, is going to come in and I think sort of blow our minds about what's actually possible as humans. I absolutely loved this conversation. I think you're going to love it as well. I think Robin is one of the special humans on this planet who has this innate ability to fight for goodness, to fight for mindset. And it's something I think a lot of people have, but the way that she articulates it is so beautiful. I hope you listen for her acronym for HOPE, which I thought was absolutely beautiful. But in Robin's journey, she's going to tell you right out of the gate how she ended up inheriting an entire business at the ripe old age of 21. That alone, I think, would throw a lot of people into a cycle of self-doubt and confusion and total fear. And the way that she took that on and how she talked about she strategically managed to make that successful. And she also talks about her why, which I think is really important. And I hope you listen for that, because as business owners, as women on the planet today, our whys need to be quite big, right? We don't do well when the why is just about us. It's not enough. And so I hope you listen for the way Robin talks about that, because it's beautiful. And then her big why actually ended. And it was like, wait, what do I do now? And so it's super cool. I hope you listen for that. I hope it's super helpful for you. And what you're going to learn about today with Robin that is so important is that there were massive obstacles put in her way, and she kept on going. So a little bit more about Robin. Robin Osborn is a business consultant and a business coach for executives. She's brilliant in the way that she talks about our human emotions and how we can use them. But just as her life was starting to take off, she was diagnosed with a baseball-sized tumor in her brain. And you can imagine what that does to your behavior, what that does to your response to the world, and how that alters how your body functions on a daily basis. And the way Robin shares about this so openly and so generously is really moving. And that part alone, I found to be incredibly inspiring, and I hope it inspires you as well. In addition to that, I hope you pay attention to what she had to go through as a human in releasing the way she used to look and releasing how she's choosing to interact in the world now. And I don't know about you, but I think it's going to make your socks roll up and down, because what she talks about is releasing our obsession with what our bodies look like and releasing our obsession, which what I always call high functioning codependence. Go ahead and pop in those earphones and let's get to it. Robin, welcome to the Game On Girlfriend podcast. I'm really excited to jump into some of these topics today.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I love this. So we were talking, you guys, before we hit record, and full disclosure, and there are so many places we can take this podcast episode. This is just going to be amazing. But Robin, before we jump into the first question, can you give everyone your title? Because I think it's like the coolest title ever.
Adversity warrior.
I mean, come on. Come on. How great is that title? And I all of a sudden want to be your best friend forever. So as an adversity warrior, I love this so much. I know there are several stories that you can share with us today, but as we get started and introduce you to the Game On Girlfriend audience, what I really want to start with is having you tell us why you're an adversity warrior. I mean, why is this what you do on the planet right now?
Why? So first, I want to say we're all adversity warriors. That's my first statement. And secondly, what I would say is I came to this over my long, arduous journey in that. So a couple of things we're going to dip into on that, but really it's an adversity warrior is overcoming adversity with a positive outlook, no matter what. Sometimes we don't see the learning immediately. So again, staying out a victim, staying in, I got this. We're going to just march through this. The blessing's always going to come at some point. But through my journey in business, as well as personal adversity, I actually am writing a book on this. I'm not sure if the title's Adversity Warrior, but I know in life, we're all facing challenges.
There's
And
no
my
question. Yeah.
mindset is such a big, big piece of that. And I have a personal share as far as my background is my dad got overwhelmed with his business, and unfortunately I ended up taking his life when I was 21. So for me, learning first and foremost to take on responsibility at the young age of 21, but understanding that we need help as humans when we're overwhelmed. Sometimes we don't ask for help. Just asking for help is being an adversity warrior.
God, that is a beautiful statement. Just asking for help, because so many people see that as weakness, not as a stance of a warrior. I think that's gorgeous. And Robin, I want to say I'm so sorry, right? I know what suicide does to families, and it is so brutal to get through, but to be suddenly responsible at the age of 21 for an entire business while you're grieving. Right. And I mean, there's so much emotion that comes when someone we love decides to leave that way. And I think to be processing all of that and being like, oh, by the way, I'm now running a business. I mean, how big was the business at 21 that you took over?
So lucky for me, I have a twin brother who I call my wingman. So my brother and my middle sister and my mom gave us the opportunity. She said, run it and get along, or we're going to sell it. We said we want it. We had 40 employees.
Wow.
In very technical industry, we're an FAA repair station. We overhaul landing gears. We do helicopter components.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Wow. So, wow. Okay. So actually like life dependent technology, really, because if that doesn't work well.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, Robin. And you were 21.
Yes.
Wow.
So,
I mean, okay.
So what I want to say in the corporate world to our listeners that are either business owners or executives is through adversity, no matter what lesson, it's always going to help us for our next level, our next job, our next experience, our next conversation. So for me, in the coaching and consulting world, why I do what I do is, I would say, through that journey, I learned self-love, which is key. And no one defines you, only you do. So limitless on what you can do when you do, I would say, the personal work, but also understand all the lessons are gifts. And so for me, I fell on my face a lot, but then I dusted myself up, got up, and continued. So I'm proud to say we're still in business. So I've been at the helm of the company for 36 years.
Wow. Wow. I mean, congratulations. That alone is huge. Whether you inherited that company at 21 or 32, that's a big deal.
Thank you.
Really impressive, Robin. That's amazing. And I mean, it's funny. I almost interrupted. You said, of course you fell on your face. Like, who doesn't? Right. And I was like, no, that's not very helpful, but it's true. Right. Like we all fall on our faces all the time. I mean, if you don't mind, I think what's coming to mind for me is I would love to know, like, what was day one like? Like you're going along being 21, all of a sudden you're like, oh, I own a business with 40 employees that can break down entire airplanes if they don't work well. So cool. What the heck was that like? I mean, did you wake up and have steroids in your coffee? Like, what did you do that day to get going?
So the good news is we were all at the business. So I went to the business right out of high school. So I'd been there 3 years. My dad always, I would say, empowered me as a leader, and never, being a boy-girl twin, I never knew there was a difference truly between men and women from a leadership perspective. So what humbling, I would say, part is I knew my intuition was I had to gain the trust of the employees because they were much older than me, to take over and be a leader at 21, and the employees are all in their early 40s. It took me about 5 years, a lot of personal conversations in learning, first seeking to understand, and then proving yourself. So to me, it's really showing up in that, this is serious. It's not a fly by night. And for me, I would say we did really well with that for about 20 to 25 years. And then I ran out of tools in my tool belt. And that's when I really started to grow, because I, initially thought that we got this. And I didn't realize that some of the seasons and different adversity that you face in a business, typically every 8 to 10 years,
Yes,
you're going to get stuck, whether it's organizationally, departmentally, or individually. So for me, I did a lot of inner work through that process, and it aligned with the professional process as well. I was able to continue growing. I did get stuck quite a bit, but I was smart enough to ask for help.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's normal. Like you said, there's a cycle. It's normal to get stuck. Actually, we get stuck because either the industry has grown, or we have grown, or the employees have grown, and we're not keeping up. Right. So you start to feel stagnant and something starts to feel off. And that's completely appropriate. That's exactly what should happen. We want those moments because it means we're up to the challenge of growing and continuing to manage. So that makes total sense. And I love that you figured out that cycle. It's 8 to 10 years of really understanding. And I actually think that's getting shorter. I hate to say that, but every cycle's getting shorter, I feel like, on our planet right now. But yeah, I'm seeing it now every 5 years, really, with so many people of like, they almost reinvent the business message, the strategy, the positioning inside the market, the method that they use to stand apart, and also nurturing themselves and the employees in a different way, because the world is changing so quickly. And as business owners, if we think that tomorrow's going to look like today, we're probably in for a surprise because it's changing quickly. Wow, that's such a powerful lesson you learned so young. Amazing.
And I thought I had a free ticket, right, after I climbed that mountain. And then life got a little more interesting.
Share about that. This is an amazing story.
So I'll give you the transition. I implemented a business operating system in our company about 25 years in, because I recognized I didn't have the tools and the experience to grow the company. So I kept really being a hamster in the wheel. I was frustrated. I read the book Traction by Gino Wickman.
Yep.
It really changed my perspective. And then I self-implemented a custom operating system in my company. I actually was certified as an implementer, an EOS implementer, for 7 years.
Wow, congrats.
So through that process, I realized I wasn't in my gift, that I needed to make a change. And I went into the coaching and consulting business and started helping implement custom operating systems, what I had learned and walked through, for other business owners. And so beautiful journey, wonderful to have just a new role and step into it. So what I would say is, in COVID, I did a lot of coaching on Zoom. So I called it my Zoom hustle, right? We were all stuck. I still was doing a lot of consulting and coaching, but I didn't feel good. I had low energy. I actually had some like weird symptoms. So I started gaining weight, but that was normal for COVID.
Right.
Super low energy. My sister would say, "Why are you cussing so much?" And I just was like, thought I was depressed in COVID and kind of pissed off. So long story short, 3 trips to the emergency room, and they kept telling me I'm fine. 3rd trip, I said, "Look, I'm a strong woman. There's something seriously wrong with me. You need to scan my head." Found a baseball-sized tumor in my brain.
Unbelievable. There's so much I want to unpack on that, Robin. First of all, what a journey, right? Yeah. And I mean, oh my gosh, like I say all the time, like I'll be working with clients and they need to take medication, or someone gets diagnosed with something new. I'm like, listen, we're big bags of chemicals. And when something goes off, it's off. And like the side effects are bananas. I mean, things like you were cussing more, like what? But it's because things were out of alignment. The chemistry was starting to get off, right? There wasn't enough room for the healthy part of the brain. So things started misfiring. And it's so, I think, both humbling and mind blowing, like the power that's in our bodies
Yeah.
And it's almost like we don't recognize it until it starts, that power goes awry and we lose control of it somehow. And we don't recognize there's so much going on all the time. And I think it's so extraordinarily beautiful is the word I want to use, that you went back in and said, listen to me, something's wrong. Right. And I am so upset for all of us who have to do that. I had to do that for my daughter recently. It took 9 months of me screaming and yelling right before they actually listened to me. And then something was seriously wrong. Right. It's like this idea that you were your own advocate. So there's more of your warrior spirit right there. Right. But also in doing it in a way that they actually were able to hear you. And I think that's so much about being a warrior, about being a fighter, is that we're responsible for how we communicate out, and not to the point that we have to tiptoe around other people, but understanding how important it is to communicate so they can hear, because that's actually what matters. Right.
Yes.
And that we hurt ourselves when we just check everyone off as a big jerk face or whatever. There's much worse words we use. Right. But when we're like, it's them, da, 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 and we start listing off like that, that feels horrible and it actually hurts us. And so I think what you did in that moment, I really wanted to pinpoint that, because I think as a woman in business and a woman on the planet today, that is something that each of us has to be both aware of and responsible for. And it can be exhausting. And I think the way that you did it was just absolutely gorgeous.
Thank you. And what I would say also is trust your intuition, because women especially are very intuitive. And my brain started when you don't know you have a brain tumor, but you naturally, your body automatically starts coping, or you try and justify odd things that are going on. So what I would say is, and the other side of this is what I work with clients now on, is we've got to put our health first, do the self-care, because my adversity warrior attitude is also, there's ego in there. So when I was in the hospital, I was in very bad shape. So I also had blood clots, a separate issue. But I said to the nurse, I'm invincible. And she's like, you are until you're not. And they basically said that the tumor, the pressure was so bad, I had a couple of days before it would take my life. So it was a very emergency situation. I have older 28 and 25-year-old. They had to fly home and from vacation, one of them, to come. And I had to say goodbye to my kids because they didn't know if I was going to make it.
Oh my gosh, Robin. Oh, I just got head to toe chills. Wow.
So
I didn't realize, I mean, I knew about the tumor. I didn't realize you were that close. Wow.
yeah.
And
So
imagine if you hadn't said something and gone home that day.
exactly.
Wow. Wow.
But when I reflect back, so the great thing about surviving, being given the gift of life for the second time, is that I have new perspectives. And as soon as I woke up and was able to speak, the other thing is they didn't know if I'd be able to talk because they had to go through the speech center to get it. So when I was able to speak, I immediately, within 24 hours, was, why do I in the past have taken responsibility for everything that's not mine, like that's around me? I'm not going to do that again.
Yes. Oh, that's so huge. Oh my gosh, Robin, if there's anything like, oh, you just made my heart sing, because that is the one thing I think we do as women that is so damaging to us, is we act like we have to tiptoe and it like balance and expand and exist for everyone else to be okay.
And I'm like, I'm not doing that. And the other thing was, when they were rolling me in to the surgical room, one of my last thoughts was, who the hell cares what size jeans I wear? Because I used to be so hard on myself mentally.
Yes.
And I'm like, I'm not doing that. That's I'm gonna fight for my life right now. That's just such wasted energy. So the negativity. So I would say my MO, my purpose in life, is to help people become better, but also exude joy every day, because now from here forward, every day is a free day for me.
Oh my gosh. That is so beautiful. So those are two really huge epiphanies. And I think, I have I have a personal mission about the diet industry myself. And I'm not like a health person at all, other than I too tell my clients, please take care of your body. It's the only one you get. Is that this diet industry, this you've got to be smaller, shrink yourself, diet all the time world that we live in is such a massive distraction and energy drain on women specifically. It doesn't seem to hit men the same way at all. And I think, the world would be an incredibly different place if we allowed ourselves to take all that energy and put it towards making the difference we want to make out there in the world instead. Like, what would be possible on this planet if every woman woke up tomorrow and loved her body exactly the way it is and exactly the way it's not? Like, can you imagine the brain power that could be put towards solving problems and giving out more love and starting businesses and being incredible humans on this planet? I love that you had that epiphany. What an extraordinary thought to have going into surgery. That was the thought. That is just so impressive, Robin. What an amazing woman you are. And then the next one to be, I'm not doing this anymore, of living my life for everyone else. How did you start to see that? I mean, here you are, not even know if you're going to be able to talk. Now you can talk. And that's pretty much where your brain went right away was, hey, by the way, not doing this anymore. How did you talk about that, or what started to change for you? I know you had a lot of healing to do at the same time.
Yeah.
So what did that look like for you? What was that like on a day-to-day?
Well, I would say first and foremost, I've always been a high achiever. So I naturally have been really hard on myself in the past. So my husband calls me Robin 2.0. So my new self.
Gorgeous.
So I had 31 staples in my head, from the top of my head all the way down to past my ear.
Wow.
And they shaved just a portion of my head. But when you wake up and you look in the mirror, it's a new acceptance. And I knew, don't go there. Like, life, we've been given the gift of life. I'm a walking, talking miracle, come from love. I knew. So I would actually put my hands up in front of me and stand in front of the mirror and say, you're beautiful, you're talented, you're strong, you're amazing. I did that every day in front of the mirror, and I couldn't walk properly. I would shuffle. My family was incredible. My husband had shifts where they would come every 8 hours because he works pretty long days. And so everyone was involved, but they had to make sure I didn't fall, I didn't seizure. So very intense, I would say, first 90 days post-surgery. But for me, I want to go, I want to get back. But I knew it was a new humbling experience, in that I had to accept where I was and accept the one day incremental changes. So my left side didn't work that well. I couldn't lift my leg. So of course, after brain surgery, everybody gets a puppy. So we got a puppy after
As one
6.
does. Yes.
Yeah. And that, my Charlie girl helped me learn to walk. It took me a while, 1 year to walk 1 mile, because your neurology has to learn how to realign and re-educate. So for me, I would walk a 1/4 mile and then my left side would just give out. And then
amazing. Wow.
So I would say, through that personal gift, because I do call the tumor a gift, because all of this wisdom and blessings came, is that business is the same, in the sense that it's, an overnight success takes about 10 years.
Yes, usually.
So it's staying in your purpose, your why, your motivational drivers, and getting the 1%, and not living in extremes. So I'm big with the words that we use. So when we're in always or never, that's hopeless, right? But when I go into companies and they're saying kind of, sort of, probably, I think so, there's no clarity there. That's frustration. And so what I have found is the personal journey in recovery that I have accomplished and achieved is similar to the business tools that I use. Is you really need a vision, you need a goal, you need the tactical weekly measurables, you need accountability. And I would say most powerful is the values, my moral compass. Like, what is it that I operate off of? So the book, Don Miguel Ruiz, The Four Agreements, always do your best. Don't take it personal. Don't make assumptions. And I'm trying to think of the last one, be impeccable with your word. When I was in PT and you can't lift your leg, really freaking frustrating for someone who wants to take the world on. So be impeccable with your word. I would cry and then still show up. So I would say, I'm shutting up and showing up. So to me, that's a diversity warrior, is don't quit. Quit's not even in my vocabulary, but all I'm saying is what I also learned in business and physically is instead of peaks and valleys, we have peaks and pre-peaks. The pre-peak is you're always on a cusp of a breakthrough.
I like that. I love that perspective. We're like almost there.
Yes, absolutely.
Because it keeps you in the game, right? It reminds me of when you just said that. I remember this story from, I think it's Think and Grow Rich. It's either Think and Grow Rich or Rich Dad Poor Dad. I forget, about the man who sold everything to mine gold in the West. Completely bankrupt and in debt, hasn't found any gold. And so he sells everything and they turn the machine on and he was 2 inches away from the biggest vein of gold in the West, right? It's like, oops, right? But it's like, oh my God, how heartbreaking at the same time. Like, oh, I just want to like throw up in my mouth a little bit. But like, I love what you're saying about it's almost just like right there. And I think if we approach life, what a warrior-like attitude, first of all, because I almost said if we attack life that way, if we like jump into life every day thinking, what if I'm this close? What an extraordinary life that creates. Because then you really don't quit. Why would you quit? You're almost there.
Exactly. And I have a lot of acronyms. People actually joke because I have so many acronyms, but HOPE is having only positive energy.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
So we step into the higher self. Hope is truly living the values and really committing to the vision. If we're hanging out in the past or even the present and not looking future forward, the hope is in present to future. That's where I would say the real catalyst for change is.
Because that's where the gap is, right? Like you can feel that gap and it gets exciting to fill the gap, right? I think as humans, we really enjoy that part of the challenge of like, that it really lights us up. And so I think you're right. You can see that moving forward. I love that with hope. That's beautiful. Because I think, having hope, I'm somebody who cries out of frustration when I have the flu. Like, I'm not going to lie. I'm like, get me out of this. But like, I don't do well, right? I'm like, oh my gosh. And I think when our bodies do move in a way we don't expect them to, or something starts to happen, we lose total control. Hope is very difficult to come by in those moments. I think this is why your story is so inspiring, because I think there's so many of us. I would put myself in this camp and hopefully I'd rise to the occasion if something ever came up, right? But this idea that we just want it to look like it used to look, the fight for the past, right? And the mourning, I think that most of us skip over that, the loss of that, right? That nope, tomorrow's never going to look like yesterday ever again. Like it's never going to be predictable that way. And there's a sense of loss there. And so I think that description of hope, especially in the moment of physical adversity, right? When our own body is doing stuff we didn't ask it to do, we don't want it to do. You're like, what is happening? Right? And you don't have control over that. Having hope in the faith of that, I mean, in the face of that, I was going to say takes a lot of faith. And that's really impressive, Robin, that you just seem to apply that right in the moment of when it happened, of just like, I'm not going to not go this way. I mean, did you have moments of?
I would say it wasn't, I've surrendered. So to me, I shared with my husband, we're not in control here, because I didn't know if I was walking away with my life or not, or if I would have all my faculties. I said, I'm trusting God and leaning in, full surrender. My whole life has changed because of the gift that I was given. And for me, I would say prior to the brain surgery, I was really lost in my purpose. I had lost my mom in 2018, when I lost my dad when I was 21, I just mentally thought to myself, my purpose is to take care of my mother financially. This business will be successful. So for, 30 some odd years, that's what I focused on. And I would say at times I knew how to be a business owner. I didn't know how to be a human because I was so driven. But then when my mother died, I felt like my why died. And I realized that never was my responsibility. I didn't know that at such a young age. Now I get to choose to define life on my terms, which is a program that I actually coach on. But what I want to say is my new purpose came out of the new Robin 2.0, the new perspective in giving myself permission and knowing first, I would say I learned self-love and learned that really, truly sharing my gifts and helping people change their lives is my new purpose with my new perspective.
Gorgeous. I think you said a lot in there that's super important. I think wow. I'm sorry, my brain just exploded with everything you said. That was so amazing. But I think what you said initially that is so important is your why was huge. Even though you felt like you didn't choose it, right? That it was to take care of your mom financially, it was big enough. That's a big why. Right. And I know personally, I have that a lot for my dad in my business too, right? Like that can be a big why for me sometimes to dive in or to work harder when I'm tired or to go the extra mile, those sorts of things. It can really be a driving force because it's bigger than us. Right.
Right. Exactly.
I think getting faced with the idea, okay, well, that one's gone now. Wait a minute. Wait, what do I do? And I think I'm sorry, I'm racking my brain because I don't think I've ever had a client or student who hasn't gone through one of those. Right? Like their why is big enough to keep them going, or they can't figure it out. They're just like, nothing's big enough for me. Like, how do I choose this? How do I find this? Why am I here? Those sorts of feelings. And I think it's just extraordinary. You actually had both. And I think it's really wise for those of us listening who have a why that's bigger and outside of us to remember there may be moments or times in our lives or periods where that why won't be there. And so diving in more to figuring out what you really want to use your life for is so important. And to not be afraid when it happens, I think too. I think you sharing that really helps people with that. Yeah.
I would say also the first step is being in acceptance. So just like you were saying, a lot of times we like to play it safe. We want to stay in the same security that we know. We want a certain outcome, but we're not in control of a lot. And stepping into, to me, transformation is truly first and foremost being in acceptance that it's not right now. Things are different today. I can't go back to yesterday. The vision, stepping into acceptance is, I would say, a huge, huge piece to really creating the new plan, because what I call head trash. So I own that domain, headtrash.com.
That's hilarious. Good on you for buying that, by the way. Amazing. Can't wait to see what you do with it.
The inner conflict. So our negative self-talk weighs us down. It takes our energy, steals it. Also assumptions and interpretations of, they're going to think I'm X, or the way that we interpret what somebody has said, or our limited beliefs. They all are stucks. And that's what I like to help people with, is first and foremost, what's weighing them down that's self-induced. Where when I say adversity warrior, coming from a positive outlook, the first thing is you got to be president of your own fan club. We need to stop putting all that negativity because it's subconscious. Sometimes we don't even know we're doing it. So that's a huge, I would say, nugget for creating the life on your terms.
I think so too. It's like a habit, isn't it? Sometimes like the way we talk to ourselves so negatively, we don't even notice anymore. It's like I always say, if you stand in the sewer long enough, it stops smelling. It's kind of like that, right? So I love being the president of your own fan club. That's fantastic.
And I did it so well like beat myself up and was self-critical, that I actually put Post-it notes on my computer, my bathroom mirror, my dashboard on my car, and they said, "You're awesome." And then my clients started calling me Mrs. Awesome.
Oh, that's
Because,
the best. Oh my gosh, I love that. That's so
so
good.
yeah, there's a lot of tricks you can do, but self-awareness is key. Yes.
I love it. Oh, Robin, thank you so much. I mean, thank you. One, thank you for being so generous in sharing your story. I know it's not always easy to share your story, even as it starts to fold into your life's purpose and you can see that happening. It's still not always easy. So thank you for that generosity today. And I have a feeling we've inspired several people who are either currently facing some form of adversity, because aren't we all, right? Some are huge. Some are annoyed because their cat won't leave them alone, right? Like we've all got stuff. But I think your generosity and your honesty in sharing this is so important for all of us to remember. One of the things I say a lot, Robin, is that none of us is special. Any one of us can get that call tomorrow from a doctor and life changes from that moment forward. It does not look the way it did 5 minutes before the call, right? And that idea that that can happen to any one of us. And I think when someone comes on and is open about the truth of that story, that the truth of that journey we have as shared humans, I just think it moves mountains in our ability to get up and keep going when it's hard, and to know, we're not alone as we do that. I love it. Thank you for doing that. I really appreciate it.
Of course.
And I know you have your coaching program that you talk about. Can you share a little bit more about that in case someone's really interested in working with you about that?
Absolutely. So I do both personal and business. So two different things. And the interesting thing is, in the business, we always end up getting to the personal.
Every time.
So for me, exactly. I am happy to share more details in that process. And a complimentary gift is a discovery call today. So they can go to my website, robinosborn.com, or they can go to headtrash.com and you'll see my email. I also have a calendar link. You can go to followupwithrobin.com and schedule some time. I would first, like I say, diagnosis without examination is malpractice. So I like to really understand where you are, what is the goal, and then share what tools and what that roadmap would look like. So I'm happy to help.
Thank you so much. You guys, we are going to have the links to those underneath this video if you're watching on YouTube, or in the show notes if you are listening in. Robin, thank you so much for being with us today. I know I've said it before, but I'm going to say it one more time. Life-changing conversation if someone pulls it towards them. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.